Oh, g'day everybody. My name's Matt. I'm here to give you a lesson on how to create a day of mega results. If you appreciate this content, please chuck a like on the video, subscribe to our channel. We're always coming up with new and fantastic content all the time. So how to create a day of mega results. Where does this lesson come from? Basically, I've had more than 6 years of direct sales face-to-face experience around the world. I've worked in UK, Sweden, Australia. I've done many different sales jobs. And I have seen some extraordinarily exquisite, humongous days of sales from people around the world. These were primarily at big events. So these were events that the whole office that I was working in would look forward to throughout the year. The anticipation and the excitement would be coming. These were events such as like a Comic-Con, a Supernova in UK, for example, the Ideal Home and Christmas show. In Australia, the Royal Melbourne show, really big events that had thousands and thousands of people coming through them, big foot flow. So what that presented was big opportunity. Now, if done correctly, huge results, like I say, and on commission, that means huge money. So we'd wait with bated breath for these events, and they'd happen a few times a year. Now, what would happen at the events? There'd be three types of sellers that would walk home from that event or walk out of it. There'd be those that absolutely destroyed the day, and they exceeded expectations within themselves and within everybody who had expectations on them from the office. There'd be those who had the expectations on them from the office. They might have been a new seller, somebody with natural prowess, but who ended up bombing out in the event and having a really rubbish day. The third were those who had no expectations on them, but also bombed out in the event. Now, there are a few key common traits between each group. The bottom two, the ones who had bad days or bad events, the common traits that I would identify were lack of planning. They just turn up to the event and expect to do well. Or the ones who were expected to not do well from the outset, they turn up to the event and they probably anticipate that they do well because it was a big event and everybody was looking forward to it. So naturally that would equal loads of sales, when that's just unfortunately not the case. At these big events, why the successful sellers walked out of it with wads of money was they were working literally twice as hard to earn 3 times as much money in the day. Now, to break down the tools and techniques that the successful people were using throughout the day, I'd say there's 3 fundamental steps or phases that they go through within a day of sales. Now, step 1, we'll call it, would be the planning phase. This would happen a week before, the day before. And what would go on in the planning phase? Basically, everything and anything that could be planned would be planned. So let's go right down to basics. Where is the event? Where is the sales stand that you're working at inside that map? So you know exactly where it is. How far is the event from your house on your car or public transport? How are you going to get there in peak hour, taking into account the variables? Where's the parking? How much is it going to cost? What is the key equipment that you need on the day? Do you have it on you? Do you have access to it? What passes and certificates do you need to get in there? So all of this was already known. I would go as far as pre-packing every meal that I needed in really easy food items that, I didn't need to reheat, sandwiches and things that I could just slam down. I'd get a thermos of coffee, and any water that I needed, I'd take with me so that I wouldn't need to walk away from the stand and use the maximum amount of time I had to be making sales and working thoroughly on the day. So that planning phase is vitally important for creating a big day of sales. It's like dominoes. You've got to set the dominoes up. That's the planning phase. The second step in the success is the execution. This is where you knock the dominoes over. And if you plan successfully, you know where those dominoes are going to be. They're predetermined. They're all lined up, ready to go, because you were very, very thoughtful about the way you planned the day. Now, to execute a good day, you need to be early. Early is on time is late. The early bird gets the worm. You know all the sayings, but it's so true. The amount of times I'd turn up to an event and there was one of the other elite sellers in the company who was already on stand, who'd already made a sign up 30 minutes, 45 minutes before the event even happened, it just sets you up for a really good day if you're already off the bat before the official event times happen. So early bird gets the worm. And what we do to create a really good day is we would start the day how we wanted to continue. So we'd get the coffees in early before the event started. We'd practice pitch each other and get ourselves in a really solid mindset. That way, as soon as a paying customer potentially came through the door, we're already ready to go. The problem I saw with the people who just turned up and expected to do well, they didn't practice pitch. They didn't get the coffees in early. So what would happen is the first customer who would potentially pay the money would turn up at the stand, and that seller would do a rubbish pitch. They weren't ready to go. They'd miss structure, and that potential really big sale would just walk off. And that would really create just disappointment in the seller and would set them up in that trajectory for the rest of the day. So in the execution phase, you need to execute on your plans perfectly. And going back to the planning, prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. Now, the final and equally important part of the puzzle is the debrief. So regardless of if you had a brilliant day or if you had a mediocre day or a rubbish day, it's really important to reflect on what went well and what didn't go well throughout the day. Take away the lessons from it that you can. Could you have planned things better? Could you have executed better on those plans? What could you have done differently that would have resulted in more sales? I like to write these things down so that the following day I can implement those things straight away and perfectly. Again, guys, if you are liking this content, please chuck a like on the video, subscribe to our channel, and I'd also recommend go down in the description section of this video, click the link to our website and check out our course Foundations, because there's some amazing sales techniques in that course and communication techniques that it's really worth having a look at. So from the debrief, what you want to get is you want to take away the lessons and push aside any negative emotion or anxiety that might have built up through the day. Typically, these days of mega sales take a lot out of you physically and emotionally. So you've got to kind of register all of that energy, come to terms with it, and then push it aside, especially if you had a bad day. You've got to think about what went wrong, why it went wrong, learn the lessons and move on, and then implement the lessons the next day. So that's how I've seen mega days of sales transpire. I've seen some huge days, world record days I've been part of and I've seen happen. And it's through those three steps: the planning, the execution, and the debrief, the analyzation you do at the end of it. So I hope that content's helped you out. If it has, share it with a friend. I'd love to hear what you've got to say in the comments section at the bottom. And we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.